Listen to me very carefully. I need you to find Nicholas Matthews, who's a patient at the state hospital. The same night we went into that building, he escaped. He's already killed several people. And if I'm right, he's gonna kill many more.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris NOTARILE and I'm the director and creator of Methodic, the world's first slasher movie, which is currently available on Amazon Prime. So, I originally made the movie back in 2007. It had a brief life on Netflix in 2009, and over the years it was here and there. But now that the movie is 100% back in my possession, I put it up on Amazon for the world to see with a new HD cut, a nice leaner, trimmer time behind the film, and I'm really excited for not only for you to see this new version of the movie, but I'm now going to answer some questions that some of you wrote in to give you some insight into my creative process and what went into making the movie all the way back in 2007. So let's get into it. Well, it's no lie that Methodic was heavily influenced by Halloween. In fact, the original script was my attempt at a Halloween remake. You see, back in, I want to say, 2005, I was talking with some people who knew some of the creatives in charge of the Halloween franchise, or so they say. And so, you know, being young and eager and obsessed with Halloween, I wanted to remake it. That was my dream. You know, I was... how old would I have been? I would have been, I guess, 22 years old, and I was like, I want to do this. I want to make Halloween. I have the vision and everything. So I wrote a script, and I attempted to actually pitch it. I flew out to California a couple of times, but I was never able to secure a meeting because, you know, I'm a kid. I'm unsigned. I don't have any agents and whatnot. And so, you know, the whole thing was just basically a wash, unfortunately. Then, in towards the end of 2006, they announced that Rob Zombie was going to be remaking Halloween. I was like, well, shit. I'm never going to be able to do that now. So, I was kind of stewing for about a good, 8 months. I was like, well, I like Rob Zombie. I like what he did with his first two movies, so hopefully Halloween's going to be good. And then I saw, I think, the first trailer for his Halloween, and I was not happy. I was like, oh my god, this is not what I want in a Halloween movie. So I got to thinking, and I started talking with this person who was a fan of my work, who was like, hey, I'm interested in, like, maybe we could fund something. And I go, this is, okay, yeah, totally, let's fund something. What do you want to do? You want to do a feature? Let's do a feature. So I said, you know what? I want to take my Halloween feature script and I want to convert it into what would then become ultimately Methodic. And the plan at the time was to take out everything I put into Halloween and take that out and then fill in those gaps that I had created with an original story. I kept, obviously, the structure of that, the archetypal structure, but then with Methodic, I wanted to go into more of what in this film Nicholas's life was like in the mental hospital, at least briefly, as well as switch it around. He kills his parents instead of his sister, leaving the sister alive to take care of her baby sister, and how that relationship is now strained, that she's growing up and she wants closure. Because imagine growing up and you actually know what occurred, and now you seek out the murderer yourself. So the plan behind Methodic was basically, A, from the get-go, it's Halloween on steroids. I wanted to have a much more aggressive film. And then B, I wanted to focus on these new elements of, a doctor who doesn't give a shit anymore, having the arresting... I basically split Loomis in two between Dr. Pell and Detective Grant. Adding in the Colin McDermott character was, I guess, the third part, because he was the physically active one searching for Nicholas. So yeah, I guess I split Loomis into three different people. I had the Lana character be the window into the movie, the Laurie Strode character, except this time around, she poked the bear. She's the reason why he escapes, rather than one night Michael just went crazy and escaped because it was Halloween. I needed to have a better reason for Nicholas to escape, rather than it's the anniversary or it's Halloween or something like that, you know? So I figured Lana coming and telling him literally, fuck you, was enough for Nicholas, or aka the Doll Man, to say, you know what, I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna get out. So obviously the influences were heavily Halloween, but there were additional influences that we used. I wanted to treat Nicholas and the Doll Man like a Terminator. The T-1000 specifically was a very big influence on the Doll Man, having him be, you know, very laser focused and fast and brutal and vicious. There are some others, I can't really think of them off the top of my head, but Terminator was definitely a big one. When I was conceptualizing the Doll Man, I wanted to make sure that the mask was, I don't want to say iconic, but recognizable, instantly recognizable. So I went to this website called slasherpool.com, and at the time, they had like a catalog of like every slasher mask, you know, even in the shitty films, you know, they had masks of all the different killers, and I wanted to just kind of see what's out there. And I noticed some similarities. I noticed the standouts, the most memorable ones, obviously, are the ones that are the most, I guess, expressionless. And I'm like, you know what? I want to have my killer have a smile, because what's the most messed up thing that you could experience when you're getting killed? An asshole smiling at you. So I thought of the smiley face, the have a nice day smiley face. And I go, I kind of want to play into that with having a big old red smiley face, and not like a gnarly mangled one, but a literal cartoonish smile. Like you can actually see like the little dots on the cheeks with the big smile coming down, the black eyes and everything. So I just wanted the mask to be as basic as possible. It's a regular material, a silver gray material with the red line on it, and I did some shading on the mask, obviously, to accentuate it a little bit more, and you know, bring out the hollows in the eyes and under the nose and the mouth and everything. So it felt like there was an angry expression underneath the mask, you know. But the have a nice day smiley face was probably the biggest influence on the design of the character. And then after that, I kind of wanted to just do, you know, the basics. He was in all black, you know, turtleneck, jeans, gloves. Yeah, I just wanted to really have the eyes go straight to that fucking mask and be like, what is that thing, you know? I'm not really sure what goes through my mind. I kind of just try to think of things that either would freak me out or things I know would freak other people out, you know, based on experience. I used to work at haunted houses, and I did my own little haunted house every Halloween, and you get to learn like what triggers people after a certain point, what kind of freaks them out, and what gets them to go, ugh, you know. So I guess all of that is just very subconscious for me when creating stuff. Like I just instantly know what I want to do, and I go, okay, how do I make this function? How do I make this work? Well, they used to be. Unfortunately, no. I'm not able to mass produce them at this time, so every mask that I did make and have sold over the years, I had to hand make. And if I were to make a mask, it's arduous, you know, it's time consuming, especially for the price. If I was able to kind of just like, you know, print them and be done with it, fantastic. But because I have to hand stitch each mask and then airbrush the makeup on and then the smiley face on, it's just too much to do. Every time somebody says, hey, can I buy a Dollman mask? It's like, I would want to charge way more than what it's really worth at the end of the day. Well, the first and most important thing to remember is that the Dollman is not a slasher. He's a basher. He bludgeons people to death, whereas slashers, they stab you and they slice at you and everything. They use sharp objects. The Dollman uses blunt objects. So that's like the biggest thing right off the gate. The second thing is probably, I want to say, his motivations, or lack thereof. The Dollman doesn't really have a whole lot of motivations. it's really, he's a petty character, and if you cross him, he will seek you out and give you your comeuppance if you're the protagonist. Other people who get in the way, they get in the way. But for the dollman, basically, it's just don't piss off the dollman. You piss him off in any capacity, he's going to hold a grudge and he's going to come after you. Actually, Methodic was one of the first and few times that not only did I have permission to shoot in all my locations, but I had permits too. Specifically, the mental hospital, I had rented it. So I had full access to that place for 3 whole days, which is really fun, being able to just walk around this location, shoot however I wanted to shoot, and not have to worry about stepping on anybody's toes. It was abandoned, so it's not like it was active or anything like that, which is really nice. And then when we were doing the scene where Lana is on the roof and, gets thrown out and she's running down the street, we actually were able to close off the streets that night with barricades, so there was no coming through traffic, so we had full access to the street. And then I rented the local police station in my hometown of Cranford, New Jersey, so we were able to shoot in the actual chief of police's office. So yeah, it was nice to be able to actually do things officially, versus having to guerrilla stuff. And I am definitely no stranger to guerrilla filmmaking. I've been doing it for 20 years, but it's definitely a real load off when you're able to just put your feet up and go, okay, we don't have to look over our shoulders. The cops, we paid them. They're here. They're for us. They're not going to take us away. That's very nice, There aren't actually any real themes to the movie. I'm not trying to, teach a moral, teach a lesson, or, change anyone's perspective on anything. I just kind of wanted to just entertain. And with Methodic in particular. I have other movies that have morals and lessons. This one in particular is really just meant to be entertaining horror. So when we were doing the escape sequence at the mental hospital, when Nicholas just goes batshit crazy and he's smashing up the room, throwing stuff around, he comes bursting out of the room as he's going to go let all the other patients free, and all of a sudden, at the end of the hallway, I see this security guard come bursting through the stairwell, and he goes, "What the hell is going on in here?" And I go, "Excuse me?" He goes, "What are you kids all doing in here?" And I look at this out of breath man, and I'm like, "We're filming. I have a permit." He goes, "You do?" I go, "Yeah, man. Didn't they tell you?" "Oh, no one tells me nothing." I go, "Well, maybe they should have." He goes, "Oh, you're lucky. I would have shot all your asses." I go, "Thanks. It's good to know." Stupid. Another one. Actually, a lot of the weirdest stuff probably happened at the mental hospital because if you have the original DVD, you're aware of this. I caught an EVP on tape. We were filming young Nicholas. He was being interrogated by Dr. Pell in the first meeting. And he's like, "Hello, Nicholas, are you there?" And you hear a voice go, "Hello, hello." And I'm looking around. This is an abandoned mental hospital, essentially. It's been decommissioned. It's closed for over a year. There's barely any electricity in it other than the floor that we're on. And I'm like, who the hell is on their goddamn cell phone? Now, these are before the days of smartphones, so it's only flip phones and Blackberries, right? So it's not like anyone's watching a YouTube video, no one's listening to music. I'm like, where the fuck did this goddamn voice come from? And no one knew. Everyone's just sitting there quietly, like, you guys heard that, right? And they're like, yeah. I do playback on the video, I'm listening to it, and I hear the voice, and I go, okay. I don't care what any of you heard just now. As long as we're here, as long as we're filming, it didn't happen. Am I clear? Alright, let's roll again. And then another funny moment was one of the first nights that we were filming, we were doing the junkie sequence, and I forgot to bring the blood with me. So I'm like, crap, this is like, day one of filming, and I forgot the goddamn blood. So I ran to the nearest McDonald's, and I got like this big cup, and I just filled it up with ketchup, got a straw, and for the scene where the junkie gets shot, I'm just like, hang on. And I just spray ketchup all over his chest so it's visceral. I dab a ton of it on his back so when he hits, it's like that, and he kind of splurts out a little bit and he sinks down. But yeah, that was definitely negligent on my part, but it was funny no less. And I would probably say, I don't know, the rest of the production is a bit of a blur to me, but I know I had a lot of good times on that. I think it's just being able to shoot on those locations, being able to be in the mental hospital, being able to like seal off, my own like street and have that kind of privacy when filming was really nice and made me feel for the first time in my life like a validated professional, you know. And it's rare that I've had that in my career. So when you experience it, it's really really nice. Oh, and another thing was I got to work with Charles Cyphers from Halloween. Charles had played Sheriff Brackett in the original movie, in the second one, and then he was in the last one. So that was really nice, being able to work with him and getting to hear some of his stories from working on Halloween, and just comparing notes like how did John Carpenter do it versus how I'm doing it, and are there any similarities, are there any contrasts, and he actually said that no, we're pretty similar in how we handle things. So that was really nice to hear. And yeah, just being able to somehow get within the realm of what I originally wanted to do with at least somebody who was part of it was definitely inspiring to me as a very, very young filmmaker. Looking back on it, there were obviously some moments where I'm like, man, I wish I could have done that better, or the acting wasn't that good here. I should have been harder on my cast. But there are other parts in the film where I watch it and I'm like, that was actually pretty good. That lighting worked really well, or that was a really good angle, or that was a really nice edit. Good job. 23-year-old, 24-year-old me, you did a really good job. I'm still proud of the film. I'm proud of the effort. You just being able to say you did it. It's not an easy thing to say you made a feature, and let alone being able to say you made a feature that's halfway decent. I know that my movie isn't the best movie out there, but it's not terrible. It's still watchable. And I think that's the most important thing. And I've obviously made some other things since then that, in my opinion, aren't as watchable. So I am proud that I was able to make something that, now looking back on it, when I was putting it on Amazon, I had to rewatch it again. I'm like, you know what, this isn't as bad as I think it is, and that was nice. Well, I have a remake version of the script that I've written where I've kind of like cleaned up some of the the inconsistencies of the original movie, or gotten rid of some of the the clunkier dialogue. In the remake version of the script, I have a better reason why Dan ends up in the hospital rather than just a heart attack. I have it that he actually gets stabbed and he is physically injured. I feel that the heart attack, especially since I didn't know that much about it at the time, wasn't as authentic as it could have been, and I don't feel like he would be incapacitated in the hospital as long as he was. So having it be a physical assault this time, I think is better. I cleaned up a lot of. I basically cleaned up a lot of the police procedural scenes, because now I have more experience and I've done more research with how things are handled. So, Colin getting suspended, the chief and how he deals with Dan and all that stuff. Those are things that I wish I could have fixed a little bit more. I've also cleaned up some of the dialogue between Melissa and Lana. The Doll Man itself as a character, I've cleaned that up. The movie, the remake movie, opens up a lot differently, and we actually get to see that it is an entity that is passing from person to person. And I think that actually helps a little bit more, in my opinion, rather than the ominousness of the original movie that all of a sudden, he just like kind of freaks out and acts differently. There's less ambiguity and more definitive. No. He's actually possessed. We know this. The audience knows this. The characters don't. So it kind of helps, in my opinion, getting us from A to B. And then finally, when Nicholas gets his body back and saves Lana at the end, I think it doesn't feel like it's coming out of nowhere. And I don't want to just think like, oh my God, what could I have done? What could I have done? When instead, just one day I could remake the whole thing. And that's, always a possibility. I totally would, but I'm not working with any artists right now because I feel that artists should get paid, and I don't have the funds to pay an artist to draw a book. But it would definitely be something I'd be down to do if I actually had the funds to do it. But that's something that I'll cross that bridge if and when I ever get there. I'd probably just tell myself, follow your heart. You know what you're doing. Don't second guess anything. And thankfully at the time I really didn't, but like double down on that thought. If there was a moment where I had pause where I was like, I don't know about that, really, I would tell myself like, dude, no, no, no. You know what you're doing. You got this. You have the vision. It's in your head. Just follow it through. Don't second guess. Don't question yourself. Just gun it and run it. You know. I would also probably tell myself, to be a little bit more stricter with my cast. I gave my cast a lot of freedom when they were performing, and I don't know if that 100% was for the best. There are definitely some actors I should have pulled the reins in on a little bit more, and other actors where I should have just like kind of nudged them more in the direction I wanted to, rather than just assuming everybody knew what they were doing. And that is the mark of an experienced director. When you've been doing this, for 20 years, when someone either needs to be pushed in the right direction, nudged in the right direction, or someone needs to be kind of reined in because they're going way too far with the performance. And in the moment it seems like a good idea, but when you're watching it in playback, especially after enough time has passed and you've been able to separate yourself from the project, you realize, oh man, what was I thinking? So I would definitely have probably told myself to, apart from just following my gut, to be a little bit more stricter with certain actors and make sure that they, give you the performance that you really want instead of what they're telling you that you want. It doesn't matter whether you've been filmmaking for a day, a year, or a decade. If you're the director, it's still your project at the end of the day. You can listen to other people, but if you're going to take the role of director, you need to be able to make the definitive decision of, no, this is what I want, for better or for worse. You cannot just be wishy-washy. I've straight up told people that there's nothing original anymore. Everything is a copy of a copy. So if you're creating your own original horror story, don't try to think of something that has never been done before. Instead, try to take what's been done before and do it better. Mix and match, blend genres, take your favorite things and create a cosmic gumbo or something. Just don't try to do what's already been done thinking, oh my god, I'm going to break the mold on this one. Just do it the way that you want to do it instead. Tell it from your perspective. And if you just so happen to actually come up with an original idea, fantastic. Don't market it like I have the one thing they've never thought of, because I guarantee you they already thought of it. You just didn't know it existed before. So, because I've had a lot of people message me where they're like, I have an idea that Hollywood's never done before, and they pitch me their idea. I go, no, man, that was done about 10 years ago with this movie. Oh, I had no idea. I go, yeah, I know. Don't ever say that. You end up looking like an idiot. Instead, just go, I want to do this. Well, it's been done before. Yeah, I know it's been done before, but I want to put my stamp on it. I want to do my own thing. I like Halloween, so I wanted to do my own Halloween movie. Because I've had a lot of people go, oh, this is just like Halloween. This is a ripoff of Halloween. No, it's the Halloween story, but it's done through my perspective. It's how I want to tell my Halloween story. Because I can't do Halloween, I'm going to do my own thing instead with the elements of Halloween. The killer escapes from a mental hospital, goes after somebody thing. That's not just Halloween. It's a lot of horror movies, Halloween was just one of the first or most prominent films to utilize that, trope. So, yeah, don't try to be original. Just try to be creative. I think the single biggest lesson I learned was breaking off more than you can chew. At the time, I had said, a feature film is a lot like making a short movie, just really longer. And that helped me get through a lot more projects because I'm like, everything is just a short film, just a long short film or a short film. As long as I'm staying within a certain budget range, I'm still making it the same way. I'm not changing how I'm making things. So I think that mentality really helped me break down a lot more projects. And in turn, I built up my stamina when it came to filmmaking itself. So now I can do a lot more, a lot quicker. So when I do another feature, it's just like making a short film, except longer. I guess the biggest lesson I learned was to trust my instincts and to not second guess myself. So like the original aspect ratio of the movie is like 360 by 640. It's tiny. So I knew that wasn't going to work. And I tried like just blowing up the picture, but everything was blurry, or pixelated, and that's just bad. So I'd seen a lot of demonstrations with a program called Topaz. And what Topaz does is it digitally enhances a picture, and it upreses it and makes it into 4K. And I was looking at the sample work, and I'm like, wow, this is really impressive. So I put the feelers out, and I spoke with this guy who told me that he could do it. And I'm like, really? So he sent me over some samples, and I'm looking at the little tiny version next to the blown up 4K version. I'm like, dude, this is nice. Oh my God, this is awesome. It actually looks believable. I was afraid it was going to look glossy or crappy, but no, it actually looked pretty decent. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty awesome. Let's do this. So he up-res the entire movie for me, and I paid him his handsome fee, and that was that. I got the movie back, and then I was able to re-edit that version, add in some new credits at the beginning and the end, some additional special effects here and there, trim out some of the fat, and I had a brand new 1080i version of the movie. So all in all, it was a pretty painless process, but hopefully I can do that for some of my other projects. As I said, the original movie started out as a Halloween remake script. Once I had removed everything John Carpenter wrote from my Halloween script, I was left with what would become Methodic, and then I filled in those gaps. I had worked with another writer, Brandon Slagle, who also played Colin McDermott. He basically filled in the gaps for the most part because I was just really fatigued. I was way too attached to my Halloween script, and I needed like fresh eyes on the project. Because I just, I was heartbroken. I wasn't able to do the Halloween movie that I wanted to make. So Brandon came in there and he introduced the Colin McDermott character and half the crap that he said. That's a lot. His character is a real chatterbox. Then after that, after we shot, I immediately, hit the editing bay and I edited that movie. It took about maybe like a week and a half before I had like a rough cut. Then I'd sent the movie back to Brandon, who was also working on the score along with Jason Snell. The two of them were creating tracks for the movie, and I was lacing those in. What I originally did with Methodic was, and I do this with a lot of my movies, especially the originals, I put down temp tracks, music that either inspired the sequence or music that has the vibe of what I want from a composer, and I put that in and I edit the movie to that particular track. So it's timed and paced out, and then the composer has to take out that track and then create something that's at the same pacing with the same beats and whatever. Then after we got the movie scored, I finalized some of the effects. I worked with a digital artist to recolor the movie because we shot in August, and I wanted to have an autumny vibe, so he had recolored some of the green foliage and made that, browner and orangey. He helped color correct a lot of things. And then finally, once the movie was pretty much locked, then I started, I cut a trailer, put that on YouTube, put that on social media, and just sent out the press releases. I hit up Fangoria, I hit up Horror Hound, and all the other, people out there who were writing about this sort of thing. This is, again, 2007, so the early days of the internet. Or at least with social media. I blasted it on MySpace, and then I tried to get invited to as many horror conventions as possible where I could just promote the movie, screen the movie, and get some FaceTime with various people. We got a write-up in Fangoria, which is really nice. We were on a couple of websites, and I was starting to create some buzz. And this is back in the early days of the internet, where there weren't algorithms actively working against you. Regarding the poster art and everything, like, it's very instinctual for me to do these sorts of things, so I don't put a lot of like thought into doing it when I'm doing it. I kind of just do it, and then boom, there's the finished product, So it's interesting for me to like talk about it and go into it now, because I had no thoughts when I was making it back then, other than gotta make this. And then finally with the trailer, I wanted to have something that was fast paced. I just really wanted to separate myself from Halloween visually as much as I could. I already knew that I was going to be compared to Halloween, so I made sure in all of like my press releases, all of my promotional material, I go, a Halloween inspired movie, Halloween inspired. It's no lie, it's Halloween inspired. So whenever someone said, this looks like a Halloween ripoff, I'm like, did you not read the very first sentence where it says Halloween inspired? Just try to cover my bases as best I could. But yeah, that was basically, I guess, the process in a nutshell. Write a script, get some money, cast a movie, make a movie, edit a movie, score a movie, and finish a movie, release the movie, promote the movie, and cover your bases. So I knew going into this that I wanted to stand out regardless. Like, if you're an artist, your mission in life is to stand out and be noticed. You want your work to be seen. And there are so many slasher movies out there. Everyone's a slasher. And I thought about it. I go, well, my character's really on the aggressive side. Stabbing is going to get really messy. And I'm not going to be able to do a lot of the special effects if he's stabbing people. I only have so much of a budget. How do I get around that? I'm like, what are some other things? And I'm like, oh, the character is supposed to be really aggressive, really physical, really angry. I'm like, what if he just beats people to death? Like, that's got to take a lot of fucking rage. You got to be a really angry guy to punch a person to death. And you got to be really strong, too. That would definitely set him apart. Because, you think about, like, Michael Myers, he can crush a man's head in his hands. Or Jason, he can rip a dude in half. They're strong characters. How do you get your character to very quickly get onto those types of levels? Yeah, he's supernatural, but still, the human body can only do so much. So I'm like, if he beats people to death, that really just shows how brutal he is, So I came up with the idea of the basher, So that quickly was where I wanted to go with the movie. I go, okay, we're going to beat everyone to death in this film one way or another. That'll be creative. That'll, A, look pretty gnarly and menacing on screen. B, that's going to get people go, because you're going to not just, instead of stabbing, you're going to hear crunching, bones crunching, and blood squirting and all kinds of crap like that. That's different. So I don't know, it just came from the idea of how do I stand out from everybody else? How do I get my character noticed over every other character that's A, in the same genre as me, B, has probably a better budget than me, and C, more experienced crew and filmmakers involved and whatnot. So, yeah, I just came up with the basher, and I was happy to know I pretty much am the first, I think. I'm sure there have been other kills in which a killer beat someone to death like once or twice, but to make that like your shtick, to make that your gimmick for an entire movie or a franchise, I have yet to see that, so I am happy to be the first in that. And then in terms of returning to, I guess, the concept, sure, I would totally do it. But that's the Doll Man's thing. He's the basher. So whenever I bring him back, that's what he's going to do. You're never going to see the Doll Man, with an axe. He'll use the dull side of the axe, but he's not going to slice your head off. He's going to bludgeon your head off, type thing. I think the appeal of slashers, and in Methodic's case, a basher, in society is that they are real tangible threats. And every person watching a horror movie can identify with a crazy person with a weapon coming after you. There they are. You can either outrun them or be caught by them. And that's a thrill. We experience it in real life, going out at night. Is there a killer lurking in the woods? Is there an escaped prison convict who's going to kill you? Is there a mental patient in the backseat of your car? Urban legend, the backseat strangler. These things are all real. They come from a tangible place. Whereas a supernatural story like the Jersey Devil or the Wendigo or just ghosts in general, those things are harder to verify. Sasquatch, Bigfoot. You can't verify that, but we go on the news and we hear about shooters. We hear about killers, we hear about stabbings and all these things. And as an audience, I think the appeal is that A, you can physically see it. You know the person in the mask is right there. You see them when they come out from around the corner. There they are. And then the audience can put themselves in their shoes. If that was me, oh, I'd be dead. Oh, if that was me, I'd totally outrun them. Plus, Halloween. We have the concept of Halloween as well. People dress up in costumes. We go to haunted houses. We have people popping out and scaring us in masks. These are all real things that lend themselves to the subgenre of the slasher basher, because a person in a mask is scary because what's behind the mask? You know, everybody wants to see what's behind the mask. Is it a nice person? Is it a scary person? Is their face hideously disfigured? All these things are playing with our imagination, and I think that's probably what makes the slasher basher genre dominate. I'm just going to say slasher genre because there's not a lot of bashers out there, but yeah, having the slasher genre dominate is that everybody wants to know what's behind the mask. Everybody wants to know who that person is, and everybody wants to kind of get that little roller coaster scare of, oof, they could be lurking around the corner type thing. And I think that's the appeal of a slasher movie. And in this particular case, Methodic, a basher movie. I hope I explained that one well. I don't know. Okay, for those of you who don't know, the heroes of the BCU are basically a bunch of original superheroes and villains that I've created, and I call it the BCU because it's the Blinky Cinematic Universe. And in it, we have various heroes with various powers and power levels. I made a graphic novel back in 2018 in which the Centurion, Phantom Fae, the Avenger, the Specialist, and Jassy all teamed up and fought the Doll Man. And in that particular story, that Doll Man had his comeuppance, and that was the end of it. But I basically established that superheroes exist in the world of Methodic, or Methodic exists in a world full of superheroes. So where were they? The answer is pretty simple. If you want to maintain a canon here, the Doll Man in Methodic was too low level for those superheroes to know who he was and what he was doing. The reason why the heroes of the BCU find out about the Doll Man in the comic book is because he physically crosses paths with the Avenger at the beginning of the book, and the Avenger has to now find him, track him down, and calls in his superhero friends to get answers. Now, Phantom Fae is a supernatural character, but she's not as omnipotent as, an audience member might think she is. And I like to make sure that my characters aren't overpowered. So there aren't any omnipotent characters in the BCU. There's no real oracles. There's no god that knows all and then communicates that information to the protagonists of any of my stories. I even have Death itself. Death isn't omniscient. Death only knows certain things, but Death doesn't know everything, So in this particular case, with Methodic, they just did not know that the Doll Man was active or doing anything at the time. Plus, he's physically somewhere else. The Centurion operates out of Atlas City, and the Doll Man is in Cranford, New Jersey, which is the name of the town in the movie also. We don't know where Cranford is in conjunction with Atlas, but it definitely isn't close. So that's my answer to that. I want to thank you all for supporting Methodic as well as my filmmaking career over the last 20 years. If you haven't gotten a chance, I highly recommend watching Methodic. It will be linked in the description below. You can watch it for free on Amazon Prime if you have an account, or you can rent or buy the movie as well. Also, remember to like and subscribe to this channel and click the notification so you can stay up to speed with what I'm doing, because I do a lot. And, leave a comment below. Interact with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Methodic or any of my other work, and we could talk shop. I have no social life, so this is pretty much what I do all the time. So you might as well, right? So that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.